All right, Jeremy, a TrueFit and Min here. Today we want to work on activating a rotation pattern in the hip extension and the external rotation of the femoral head in the socket. So what happens a lot of times, we have a difficulty getting the glutes to wake up. We have a hard time accessing getting an external rotation in the femoral head. So we really have a hard time getting internal rotation on the knee. So that really affects us when we're going into stance and side mechanics on gait, or sometimes we're having a hard time getting into full range for squats and deadlifts. All right, so to work on that, what we want to do is go ahead and lay you prone on the ground, prone being just laying on your stomach. All right, in the initial activation, maybe just try to make sure you have the hands underneath your armpits to kind of keep your torso stable and platformed. All right, we'll take that right heel and we're going to work on keeping the knees close together, and we're going to tuck the hip under, right? So we want to scoop, keep a little tension in the abs, feel like you're crunching into the floor. And then I want you to curl the heel towards your butt, but then flex your toes towards your knee. Okay, so even just curling your heel will activate your hamstring. You're going to feel that tension, and that may be difficult or maybe not, depending on the conditioning of the hamstring. All right, and then for external rotation, we want you to work on drifting the heel out without losing contact with the front of your hip on the floor. Okay, so we get that kind of tension in the hip, get that contraction with the abs, and we want to be able to rotate that heel out, right? So we want to be able to access that rotation in the hip. We want to drift that heel over both ways so we can kind of float that femoral head into the hip socket glidelessly, right, without friction. And we want to just try to keep the hip as stable as possible while doing that. All right. Now, progression to this, if that's not a problem and you're getting about 20 degrees each way, is we could use a light band. So this is a little heavy for what I have, but for demonstration purposes, we can set this up. But essentially, you want to set up the toe box of the foot. All right. You have that same setup. Curl that heel in, brace, and I want you to work on pulling it across that midline, right? Keeping that dorsiflexion. Drift it out, take off the load, keep the hip position. Make sure you use your breathing to kind of brace down and help prevent the ribcage from flaring. You don't want to dig in the opposing oblique, right? We want to be able to incorporate stability, recruit that internal rotation, right? You'll feel a big pull within the inner workings of the hip socket.